Hi, Diego. Okay, guys, I think we're gonna have to start the class. Please don't forget your cameras. Can you hear me?
Yes, Andrea. I have problems with my camera.
Was that you, Diego?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, no worries. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, what about you, Josue?
Hello, Miss.
Hi there. Please, whenever you can, try to turn your camera on.
Yes. Give me a second.
Okay. So, okay, so today actually we're gonna continue working on the reading section. So last class we looked at some of the questions that you can get there. I think we went vocabulary, detail, and except type of question, if I'm not wrong, and also reference. So we're gonna be looking at the rest today. I want to make sure though, have we seen this type of question, except type of question, where they ask you to like, what's not mentioned in the passage?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So let's continue with the inference questions. Now this one might be a bit harder. It depends on the way you see it, but generally they're not asking for information that is directly in the passage. So in this case, you don't have to look for the answer because you won't find it if you do that. The answer is not going to be there. It's not going to be in the passage. You need to come up with the answer. You need to get to it by drawing conclusions, by making inferences. That's why they are called inference question. So it won't be there. You need to draw your own conclusions. They are always there to per passage. They're asking about implied information that's not directly or explicitly said. And the way to do it is by reading between the lines. So you need to look for the bigger picture, try to see what information is missing. And of course, you need to have evidence about what you're saying, right? So you need to use the information that you do have in order to draw a different conclusion. It's all about logic. So let's take a look at this one here. We'll be working on the same set. So here's the question. I don't know if anyone could please read this, question 4, and the options.
Yes. What can be inferred from paragraph 3 about Huiculco prior to 200 BC?
Okay. And the options too, please.
Yes. A, it was a fairly small city until that day. B, it was located outside the Valley of Mexico. It emerged rapidly as an economical and political center. D, its economy relied heavily on agriculture.
Okay, thank you, Josue. So now I'll give you 1 to 2 minutes to read the paragraph and try to come up with what the answer is. Okay, so try to think of what it could be. Let me know what you have. I'll give you 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, guys, so please, first thing, I need you to turn your cameras on. So nobody's with their camera on. Please, Flavia, Daniela, Mauricio, Gaston. Okay, guys. And now, so as for this goes, have you made your mind? Which one do you think it is?
Option D, maybe.
Option D, okay. Anybody else?
Yes, letter C.
Letter C, okay. Any other one? Okay, guys. So, okay. So who was it that said D? Or Daniela, what do you think? Which one will you choose?
Maybe is D. I'm not sure.
D2, okay. So any of you guys, Diego or Daniela, could explain why D is the answer? Or it could be the answer?
Because in the paragraph said that the volcanic eruption affected its agricultural land.
All right, so?
So I suppose that it was a economy heavily on agriculture.
Okay, nice, Diego, thank you. What about Josue? Yeah, I think it was you, Josue. Why C?
Yes, I should see because when you look at the part of we could eliminate as a potential rival, the other places might have emerged as a leading economic and political power because the Cuicuilco was the largest place, was probably the most emerging rapidly, you know. But when you eliminate that, the other places can take this place.
Oh, okay. I wasn't expecting that. Okay, I see. So you're saying Cuicuilco was the one that emerged rapidly as an economical and political center, but then when they were eliminated, the other cities took their
Yes,
place.
take this place.
Okay, all right, I see what you mean. I really hadn't thought of that. However, is that, okay. So you want to know what the answer is, guys? It's actually D, okay? So to be honest, I think that you usually need more evidence. So right now, we do know that the other, what Josue is saying, right? So we do know that the other cities, when Cuicuilco was eliminated, they emerged rapidly as economic, political powers. But do we actually know that about Cuicuilco prior to 200 BC? Like, we know that it was a large center, but we don't really know how it emerged, right? Or how it developed, or when it happened, or whether it happened rapidly or not. So we can think, maybe the other ones took their place, but we don't have enough evidence to say that that's what happened with Cuicuilco prior to 200 BC, right? Because it's a bit ambiguous, I would say. We don't really know. Maybe they emerged rapidly, but what's to tell that they didn't, that they actually took a lot of time to emerge and develop? We don't know, right? Maybe it was an old city and something like that. So even though, we may kind of think that, there's not enough evidence to support that. And even if it's about logic and about making assumptions, you do have to have evidence still. But if you think of D, on the other hand, as I think it was Diego was saying, we do know this. So we know that Cuicuilco was the largest of the centers. So it was a great center, a powerful center. It was a very wealthy center, we could say. And then what happened? This volcanic eruption happened. The agricultural land was covered by lava, so it was seriously damaged, affected. And as a result of that, Cuicuilco was eliminated as a potential rival. So it disappeared. Okay, so we know these three things. Cuicuilco was a great center. The agricultural land was covered by lava, so it was damaged and affected. And they went down. Okay, so something's missing. We are missing why they went down. So what happened actually? So if you can see, you can kind of place this sentence here, right? You can say, since Cuicuilco's economy relied heavily on agriculture, it was eliminated as a potential rival. Okay, so that's the information that's missing. Okay, you gotta try to think of that, try to read between the lines and see what information you're, something that you can actually demonstrate, right? And here you can kind of demonstrate that because you know that the agricultural land was affected, and that meant everything for Cuicuilco because they were destroyed after that. And why is that? Because their economy was based on agriculture. So I don't know if this is making sense. Another thing I would say is usually most of these questions, what can be inferred, whenever you see this, it's an inference question. They're usually about the main idea of the paragraph. So not about the details. So for example, if you have something like, it was a fairly small city, even if you may find something like that, or it was outside the Valley of Mexico, like its location. Okay, what am I doing? And you have something like near. So it's probably not going to be on the details, but on the most important idea. And here, what they're trying to prove is how Cuicuilco was eliminated as a rival, and that's because their agricultural land was covered by lava and they depended on agriculture. Okay, guys, so read between the lines. Usually you have to do that. You have to look for that step that's missing. Okay, you have step 1, step 2, and then you're missing something in there. So you can think of it that way. About C, you don't have enough evidence. You can think of it, but you don't really have strong evidence or hard evidence to support it. We don't know how they developed, okay? This is not talking about Cuicuilco, but about the other centers, not Cuicuilco. Okay, guys, so I don't know if it makes sense. It's okay. Any questions? Do you all get why D is the answer? Okay, guys. So next one we have now is the purpose questions. Now these purpose questions, I don't like them that much, to be honest, because they may take you a lot of time. It depends on what type of question you get. They're not that frequent, likely. You can get 1 or none per passage, and they're asking about the author's choices. So they're asking you why the author did something. So why did the author include this sentence or use this word? or mention dates. So the author's choices. And what you need to do in order to answer this one is try to relate the thing that you're observing to the overall picture, okay? Now they may ask you about the purpose of a word, like why does the author use this word here, this adjective? The purpose of a sentence or a phrase, why does the author mention this? Or sometimes they will ask you about the purpose of a paragraph, which is not the best one, to be honest, because you do need to understand the whole idea, the overall idea of the passage in order to answer that. So what I can say is that in case you decide not to read the entire passage and answer the questions the way we're doing it, and in case you have one of these questions, what's the purpose of paragraph 3, then you can maybe skip that question, so choose one randomly, and you go back when you are done with the 10 questions, okay? So once you have answered all of the questions from the set. So you're gonna have a better idea of what the passage was about. So it's gonna be easier for you to answer, okay? So let's look at an example. We have this one here. Could anyone please read the question?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. In paragraph 6, the author discusses the thriving obsidian operation in order to A, explain why manufacturing was the main industry of Teotihuacan. B, give an example of an industry that took very little time to develop in Teotihuacan. C, illustrate how several factors influenced each other to make Teotihuacan a powerful and wealthy city. And D, explain how a successful industry can be a source of wealth and a source of conflict at the same time.
Okay, thank you, Marley. So now again, I'll give you 1 to 2 minutes. Please read this. You don't exactly have to read everything, but just try to find the answer. Okay, in this case, you do have to find it. And then we'll discuss. Okay, so what would you say? Which one would you choose?
I think it's letter C.
Okay, letter C. Any other opinion?
I'm thinking C too.
Okay, so you're great, C. Anyone else? Anyone that has a different one? Maybe Freddie, what do you think?
I'm trying to choose between C and D.
And D. Okay.
One of
What
them
about-
is the correct according to me.
Okay. Gaston, what about you? And please, your cameras, guys. I'm gonna have to remove you from the session if you don't turn it on. So, Andrea then? Okay, Gaston, you there. So which one would you choose? Okay, Gaston is typing through the chat. Okay, don't worry. So you can send it through there. What's your guess? C as well. Okay. All right, so let's see.
I would choose D. Yeah.
Okay, D. So between C and D. Okay, so what can I say about this? There's one thing that I said last class that I really meant, which is usually you just need to, something that's definitely going to help to answer all the questions is understanding, especially when they are like these broad questions that's asking about something not so specific, like a detailed question or a vocabulary question. But always try to understand what the main idea of a paragraph is, even if you don't read everything. So, for example, in this case, remember I said you can try to read the first sentence. It's like a short intro to it. You can also maybe sometimes look at the last part. It's also like a short conclusion. So for example, here we have the picture of Teotihuacan that emerges is a classic picture of positive feedback among obsidian mining, working trade, population growth, irrigation, religious tourism, what have you. So who can tell me what this paragraph is about? What is this about?
Could be about the growing of culture.
Okay, yes. Okay. How's culture? Yeah. What else?
So is C. The answer is C. So
The answer is C. Okay. So yes, the answer is actually C. You guys were right, most of it. But let's try to understand why. So as you were saying, that I think the main idea of this paragraph is yes, how this culture grew, but most of it will be how different factors or different elements like mining, working, trade, population growth, how many different things influence each other, or they led, they led each other to creating this powerful, wealthy city that's Teotihuacan. So the thriving obsidian operation would necessitate more miners, and that would necessitate more manufacturers. And then in turn, that would attract more immigrants, and this would cause this and this and that. So it's like a big chain of events, all leading to the growth of Teotihuacan. So that's what the idea of this paragraph is. Now, something else I want to say is that within a paragraph, most of the things are going to support that main idea. So everything that's mentioned in the paragraph is trying to prove that claim. And what's that claim? That the picture of Teotihuacan is a picture of positive feedback among different factors. So they all had positive feedback among each other. And that's what everything's going to be there for. So I don't know if you remember how in the writing section, when you needed to write an essay, I said, okay, so in the first sentence, you introduce what your idea is, what your argument, your claim is, and then you just need to provide examples, facts, illustrate or exemplify, or explain maybe, but everything that you're adding in your paragraph is trying to prove, to demonstrate that, okay? So you need to do some explaining. So that's the way that it is here, okay? You have an idea and everything that's within the paragraph is trying to support that idea, everything that you can think. So the only thing you really needed to do was understand what that idea is. And that's what we have in option C, right? How several factors, like blah, 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 influenced each other to make Teotihuacan a powerful and wealthy city. Now, another thing, can you see this, for example, here? The thriving obsidian operation, for example, would necessitate more miners. So that, for example, is telling us that the thriving obsidian operation is an example. I don't know of what, but it's an example. So it could be B, give an example, but it certainly won't be A, explain why, or explain how D, because in that case, you will have something like, this was because the thriving obsidian operation, or this was achieved by using the thriving obsidian operation. But no, it's an example. Now, think of this sentence here. If I say something like, Bolivia has a lot of talented people. And then I say something like, Juan, for example, is a famous singer and songwriter, whatever. Okay? Now, if I ask you, what is Juan? I mean, what's the purpose of mentioning Juan in that sentence or in those two sentences? Then you will tell me it's an example of how Bolivia has a lot of talented people, right? So you have the same here. If they ask you, what's the purpose of the thriving obsidian operation? You need to tell me it's an example of how Teotihuacan is a picture of positive feedback and blah, blah, blah. All right, so that's it. That's what you needed to see. Careful with these phrases here. Okay, guys. So, do you get this? Any questions? On why C is the right one?
No.
Okay, guys. So, let's move on to the next one. Okay, we haven't seen this one. Now we have the paraphrase questions, which, as you may guess from the name, they're asking you to paraphrase something. You're gonna have to know some synonyms, and they're not that frequent. Sometimes you have one, sometimes you don't, and yeah, they could be tricky. But there's one thing that you're gonna realize. So I personally love these questions because you don't have to do what we just did. You don't have to go back to the paragraph, look for the answer, read between the lines. No, everything you need to read will be inside the question. So please, whenever you have something like a paraphrase question, like what sentence is most similar to this sentence, then please don't ever go back to paragraph 1 and try to read what it's about. It doesn't matter, okay? Because you're not gonna need it. So everything you need to read is the sentence and the options, and you will right off find what the right one is. Okay, so let's try and do this. Can anybody please read maybe just the sentence that we have here?
The theory is based on the assumptions that life develops from non-life and progress and evolve in an indirect manner.
Okay, thank you, perfect. So now you're being asked on a sentence that is most similar to that one. So please, I'll give you 1 minute to read these options and let me know what you think. Okay. So, what would you say? Which one is it?
I am not sure, but I think probably is letter C.
Letter C, okay. Something I forgot to say, sorry, is that this theory here is about the theory of evolution, Charles Darwin theory of evolution. So, but yeah. So, do you guys agree with that option? C? Is it C?
Yes, for me too.
Okay, you sure, everyone? Anyone's gonna go for another one? Okay, so I can see why you guys are choosing C. It's tricky, but the right answer is actually A. So why did you guys say C? Why not A?
Because of assumptions that are making. And
Okay.
there is some word that are similar, kind of.
You mean these assumptions and evidence?
No, about C.
Oh,
I just
okay.
see before. Some unguided manner and indirect manner. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, that does make sense. But why not A? And why C?
Before all of this, we had to read the entire paragraph, right?
Not necessarily.
No,
I mean,
not for just the question 3. Like we read the paragraph and then we have the questions, right?
not
Or
necessarily. So it depends on what strategy you decide to take. So if you can, I mean, if you want, you can read the entire paragraph. You can read the entire passage as well, but you don't have to, you know?
I know.
Okay, so C does make a lot of sense. Okay, I think I would also be tricked to choose that one because it has, I mean, all the things, you know, it has, we assume that life at its origin, so that means, right, the developed, how, or based on where this was developed from, right? So that the origin or where it developed from was created. Non-organic compounds means non-life, unguided manner means indirect manner, developed is kind of like progressed and evolved. But the thing about his theory holding true, and the fact that it's a conditional sentence as well, I don't know. I think that might be a bit more, a bit different, you know, because we don't know if his theory is going to hold true or not. That's not really what the main idea of this is. The main idea of the sentence is not when the theory holds true. The main idea of that sentence is explaining what's the base of the theory. So the theory is based on this and this and that. So that's the main idea of the sentence. I don't know if you get what I mean. But, and the only one that really has the same thing is A. Because, okay, obviously, D is not the one, right? It's talking about a certain controversy. We don't know what that is. And even if it was mentioned in the paragraph, when you're answering this question, you need to think of two things. First, never ever choose one that includes something that's not directly mentioned here in the sentence that you have. And second, don't leave anything behind. So here you have something that you don't have in the sentence, and it's obviously something that is leaving a lot of things behind, like where it developed from. The same happens in B, right? It's completely different. This is mostly about where evolution occurs, and this is not about where evolution occurs. This is about what the theory is based on. Okay, so you just need to find one that is about the same thing, what the theory is based on. Not whether the theory is going to hold true or not, because that's not the idea, right? We don't care whether it's going to hold true or not. We care what it's based on. And that's what you have in A. The theory, aka a theory of evolution, is based on, is founded on. Now, the word that makes me think is the word assumptions and evidence, right? Which is not the same. But, sorry?
Yes, that's why I thought it was not the option A, because it says that it's based on evidence and not assumptions.
Okay. All right. So, but if you think about it this way, wouldn't the evidence be the assumptions? Because, I mean, obviously every theory has its evidence, right? And in this case, the evidence that holds that theory are those assumptions that life developed from non-life. So maybe if you had something like on evidence, oh, well, yes, it should be something closer to that. But remember that you're not exactly looking for a perfect synonym, but the most similar to that one. So try to think of whichever talks about the same thing. So think of what the main idea of the sentence is here, what the theory is based on, and think about what the main idea of each sentence is. This is about where evolution occurs, whether it holds true or when it holds true. And this is about something completely different. Okay, so I think that's maybe the tricky part. You won't always have something exactly the same, but as long as it's close enough and it's talking about the same thing, then it should be that one.
It's
Guys?
not always. I can see now why it's the answer A. It has like the same structure, right, in the sentence.
It does
And
have
it is always like that. Like
not always.
not
It could
always.
have a different structure. It could have something like non-organic compounds, or I don't know, evidence that non-organic compounds are the basis of life and they develop in an angular way is the basis of the theory of evolution. So it could be inverted, but it's supposed to be about the same thing. You know? So yes, I wanted to say that about structure as well, but not necessarily. It's mostly about what the sentence is about. So try to think of that. What is this sentence about? And usually in order to know that, you can look at the verb. So the verb is the most important part of a sentence, right? So the theory is based on, and all of this is just the complement. So that's what the sentence is about, what the theory is based on. And then think about what is this sentence about? The theory of evolution is founded on, so it's about the same thing, what the theory of evolution is founded. That's not the same for this, and this other one here, you know? So yes, this one has the same things, and it actually kind of means the same, but it has a different approach. It's about something else. It's try to also ask a question. You know, the question for this one will be, when can Darwin's theory hold true? It holds true when we assume that life. So it's a different approach, I would say. Hey guys? Anyhow, I think that the reason why this one is looking a bit tricky is because it's not part of the official ETS practice set. So when you practice with something that's officially made by the ETS, then you're more likely to find something that's similar to what you will have in your test, you know? So I didn't include something from that set, from this one here that we were working with, because there was no paraphrase question. So that's why I didn't, okay? But in general, try to always practice maybe with past exams or from the simulations that we have. So you will find some. Okay, guys. So any questions before we move on? Right. Now the next one, we saw this last class, the reference question, the easiest one. They ask you about what a word is referring to, like what does those, what does this, what does it refer to? And then you just need to choose the noun. So that's the easiest one of this. But now let's look at the last question, the summary questions. Okay, this is always going to be your last question. And what they're asking for here is for you to summarize the whole passage. So they want you to summarize the main ideas of the passage. They can ask you to choose one option, or sometimes they ask you to choose more, 2 or 3. Now, it is important that you do get the main idea of the passage of the reading. At least you know what it's about in broad general terms. Okay, you don't have to know every single detail, but in a general idea of what this is about. It's worth more than the other questions, so that's why it's important. And I'll give you the tip as we go. So now I wanted to say something else. You know that in order to answer the last question, you do need to know what the passage is about, right? So if you decide to read the entire thing first, then no problem, you can just answer it. Now, if you're not reading the entire passage first and you're doing what we are doing right now, which is, reading question 1 and then going to paragraph 1 if we need it, and so on. So even if you do decide to do that, then it shouldn't be a problem. Because by the time you get to the last question, to question 10, you should have read everything by that time. Because if you think about it, question 1 is about paragraph 1. So you read paragraph 1. Then you read paragraph 2 for question 2. Then you read again paragraph 2, paragraph 3. Then we have paragraph 4, paragraph 5, paragraph 6. So that's it. So by the time you get to the last one, to question 10, then you have read the entire thing already. Okay, so it also works.
The TOEFL test, it's like in paper, right?
No.
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 It's online.
It's on screen.
On screen. Okay.
So yeah, but you do have access to all of the questions at the same time in the reading. So you can skip it. Okay, so I know that we haven't read everything. We haven't read the 6 paragraphs, but let's try to answer this question. Okay, I'll give you some tips. So the question is, complete the summary by selecting the 3 answer choices that express the most important ideas in the passage. Some sentences do not belong in the summary because they express ideas that are not presented in the passage or are minor ideas in the passage. Okay, so you gotta choose 3 options that summarize the most important ideas in the passage. So as long as you know what the passage was about, so remember the title, The Rise of Teotihuacan, do you remember what it could have been about? Okay. Okay, so it's mostly about what you have in the title, right? The development of Teotihuacan or the rise of Teotihuacan. So now I'm gonna ask you to please read the options and just let me know what you think. Take a guess, okay? I don't want you, obviously you're not gonna know exactly which ones they are because we haven't read, but for now, just take some guesses, okay? So I'll leave it here. Okay, guys, have you had a chance to take a look at the options? What do you think?
I think it's C.
Okay.
Do we have to choose 3?
Yes, 3 options.
I think it's A, C, and F.
Okay.
I think it's B, C, and E.
B, C, and E. Okay, I'm gonna mark. Okay. All right, so everyone agrees on C, that's good. So the thing about this question, I'd say that it's actually one of the easiest ones. You know, even if it may look like it's not, like you have to do a lot of reading. Yes, you do have to read a lot, but I think it's quite easy to identify which ones are a bit out of context or a bit too detailed. The thing about this is just try to eliminate every option that you see that is too specific, that is talking about something too minor. Remember how they even say this in instructions? So some don't belong in the summary because they are minor ideas in the passage. So that's the tricky part. A lot of people are gonna see something like, okay, many immigrants settle in Teotihuacan, and between this and this and the increasing threat of coerced labor, and so on. Okay, so they're gonna see this and they're gonna remember reading something about immigrants in the text, and they will be like, oh yeah, so they mentioned the immigrants, so I'm gonna choose that one. So try not to do that. Try to think of it in general terms, okay? It's never gonna be about something so specific. So if the idea of the passage is about the development of Teotihuacan in all of its aspects, in every single area, you know, it talks about different things like the resources, the religion, it talks about, I think, the architecture, the elite, the natural disasters, other cities. It's about many different things. It's not just about one thing. So if you see something that's so specific as, for example, immigrants, so then it's probably not going to be that one, okay? Now, if you see something that's only about the religious shrines, it probably won't be about that one either. You know, it's just about religion. Or B, for example, that it's about, again, just religion. Teotihuacan may have developed its own specific local religion as a result of the cultural advances made possible by the city's great prosperity. Okay, so if you want to know what the answers were, let's try to look at them. It was actually A, C, and E. Okay, so you guys were right about C. As you can see, it's something very broad. It's talking about Teotihuacan in general. So several factors may account for Teotihuacan's extraordinary development. Great, Teotihuacan's development. And you have several factors for this, including natural resources, irrigation potential, and so on, including, but not excluding, okay? So they may be more. The thing is that it's about Teotihuacan's development and what influenced that development. The same happens with option A. The number and sophistication of the architectural, administrative, commercial, and religious features of Teotihuacan indicate the existence of centralized planning and control. So that's just about how organized this city was in many different areas: architecture, administration, commerce, whatever you have in there. And the same happens with option E, doesn't it? Because it's in many important areas, from the obsidian industry to religious tourism, and many more in between. Teotihuacan's success and prosperity typify the classic positive feedback cycle. Okay, so I don't know if you know what I mean, but the best thing you can do here is, of course, make sure that you understand what the main idea of the passage is, Teotihuacan's development in many different areas, and you need to read. So by the time you get to the 10th question, I'm sure you have read everything. And as you have here, don't include anything that's not presented in the passage or that's too specific. Okay, so they even give you those tips in there. So is this okay, you guys? Do you understand why A, C, and E are the right choices?
Yes, Andrea, I have a
Yes.
question.
Yes, tell me, Josué.
For example, if you choose 3 answers and you have one mistake, you lose the 2 points, or you have like a 1 point half.
Yes, I think that if you got 2 right and 1 wrong, then you get 1 point. But if you got 2 wrong and 1 right, then I think you lose the 2 of them. So you can get 1 or 2. You can never get 1.5 or half point. So yes, but if you have 2 right, then you get 1.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question or comment? Anything at all about what we've seen today? Okay, guys. So next week, we're going to be looking at the listening part. But before you go, please, if you could fill out the daily survey.
Thank you, teacher. Bye.
Bye-bye, Valeria.
Thank you.
Hi, Andrea.
Hey, guys.
Bye, Andrea.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.